revision from what we learned yesterday. So we start with the revision from yesterday where we learned about clipping mask, layer mask, how to create background with solid object, solid color gradient. We learned a tiny bit of smart object, so we could not continue because of time. So today we'll be starting with we'll go over clipping mask and layer mask. All right, for clarification. So I will go ahead and share my screen now. Let me share my screen. All right. So I hope we can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So for today, we say we are going over clipping mask, layer mask. All right. So that's what we want to do today. So I will go ahead and create a new file. Create. All right. So I have created a new file, and we said okay, Olufumulola, just try and mute yourself, please, because I thought you wanted to say something. That's why I stopped. All right. So please try as much as possible to mute yourself. All right. So we want to go over layer mask. All right, and we said we use layer masks to um, remove object or subject from the background. So, and during the course of learning about layer masks, we learned that in using layer mask, you use the color white to reveal what you want to, the part of an image you want to. Okay, you use the color white to select and reveal the part of the image you want. Then the one you use color black to hide the part of any image you want to hide or conceal. All right, so to illustrate that, we would have to import an image. So, and we have numerous ways of importing images. We could use file, place embedded, we could drag and drop. All right, so I would use place embedded. I'll click on place embedded and locate the place where my file is at. Okay, so use the image of our sneakers. So we have so Photoshop brings it and yields. It comes automatically with this node, right? Basically, what this node is for you to be able to resize them. Remember, when you click on Control T, that means free transform. You have the same node. So the same thing happens when you import an image in Photoshop. So an image in Photoshop, it
Hello,
automatically comes with
please,
enable you.
Mr. Dan, can you hear?
Yes,
Can you hear? Good morning.
yes. Good
Good
morning.
morning. I don't know if it's my network, but you are breaking at some point. Please, can you go back to what you just said now? You were breaking. I don't know. Maybe you didn't notice. Thank you.
Okay.
But I think it's a network, but I think he has been clear.
Um, did you say it's my network? Okay, but
No, 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 no,
nonetheless,
no, no. Your voice was clear.
oh, okay, okay. So, Madam Moye, I'm thinking now it might be your network. All right. So, but since you can hear me now, so let's just go back. So, I was saying we learned about clipping mask yesterday, and we learned about layer mask, and we added some little bit of side quest to our learning. We learned about creating a gradient background, a solid background, and the likes. So, I'm saying now for today's class, we will just quickly go over clipping mask and layer mask before we proceed to our topic for today. All right. So, as I said, to learn about layer masks now, we have to import image, and we have different ways of importing our image. And the two we have three ways of importing our images, right? So we have drag and drop, we have copy and paste, we have place embedded. And the two safest way to bring your images in to ensure that they retain their quality is either place embedded or drag and drop. All right. When you do copy and paste, your image loses its quality. So now I'm going to place embedded. All right. So if you cannot see, okay, if at any point in time you cannot see where my mouse or my cursor went or pointed to, just let me know so I would point to the place. All right. So the goal is to be able to follow along, right? So now I am going to file on top panel here. So I'll click on file. When I click on file, I'll just come down to place embedded. So when you click on place embedded, it will take you to your computer, right? So it is you that know where your image is located. So you go down to where your image is located. For in this case, my image is located in my downloads. So I see my image, I'll click on it and place. So when you place your image, the images come in Photoshop with this default. It comes in Photoshop with a default Control T. Remember that Control T is for transform. That means free transform. And what transform does is it helps you either increase your image or reduce the size of your image, in which case it is a tool for scaling. You want to scale down or scale up your image, right? So when you import an image, or when you import an image, it comes straight up with this note that helps you resize or increase. All right. And in any case you want to rotate the image, you will come to the edge. And the moment you see this sort of this icon that has two arrows going left and down, you automatically know that okay, this is for rotating your image. So when you see this one, you left click down, you hold left click, you hold it down, then you rotate. All right, then you rotate it. So that is for rotating, and the that is for rotating. And when you want to reduce the edge, this arrow that is pointing up and down is for resizing. All right, so as you can see, my image has been distorted. I don't even, let me try and do it. Okay, all right, I'm okay with this. Okay, so when you are okay with the size of your image or the angle of your image, you either just double click inside here or you click on this tick icon up here. But if you want to cancel it, you click on this one. All right, so we'll click here, and our image has been placed successfully on our Photoshop. So the next step now is we were talking about using a layer mask, right? So to use a layer mask, in this case now, to before we use a layer mask, what we want to do is we want to remove this sneakers from this gray background. And reason being that we want to change the color of the background to something else entirely. That is why we want to remove this one from here. At least there is always a purpose to why you want to remove an image from its background. Maybe you want to change the background or you want to use the image in another design entirely. So in this case, we mentioned that we have different ways of doing it. We could either come to this place, which is where you see your object selection tool. Shortcut is W. So if it is that one you want to use, when you click on object selection tool, you have your plus sign and a little rectangle, a little dotted rectangle on the side, right? So when you have this, you just make your selection around the image. When the selection covers the image, you leave it. Then Photoshop helps you create these tiny lines around it. All right. So that is one step of making selection of your image. And the next one is we say you come to select, you go up to select, then you click on subject. when you check to start, you see, okay, right. So when you click on subject now, you see it also makes a selection for you, right? So when you are satisfied with your selection, you come to your layers panel. Excuse me, let me close this down. You come to your layers panel and you go down, you come to your layers panel and you go down to add a layer mask. You click on add layer mask. All right. So when you click on add layer mask, you suddenly realize now that you've clicked on layer mask, you suddenly realize that some parts of your image are actually missing from the selection. So now you want to bring this part back. All right. So because of the background we have, you may not know that this soul is missing, though you would be able to see this part of the designer it is missing. Let me zoom it. You'll be able to see that this part of the sneakers is missing, but you may not tell that this sole is actually missing. So you can just turn off your background, the visibility of your background, right? So when you turn it off now, right, you'll be seeing that, oh, okay, so our Photoshop even actually cuts through your sneakers. So at this point now, we want to just bring this missing parts back. And
Excuse me,
remember, we
sir.
said,
Sir,
man,
where did you
man,
get your add a layer marks from again? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, please, where did you
Okay,
get that add a layer marks from?
okay. So let me take it back. Let me take it back. Okay, yes. So your image is selected, right? Now that your image is selected, you come down. You see this your layers panel. You will come down to your layers panel. You see this tiny icons under it. For the first one, you have this like a link, a chain linked together. Then you have FX. After FX, which is add a layer style, the next one is add a layer mask. It is a rectangle with a circle in it. That means a hollow circle. Can you see it?
No, sir, your screen is not showing that part. I can't see it on my system.
My screen is not showing that part.
Yes.
Oh,
It's showing here. Oh, it's showing here. Just follow the what's it called? The
it's
cursor as
showing.
it's moving.
Okay. So how about now? Can you see? Okay, this is the cursor, right? So I am going to the right. The cursor is on my layers panel, right? Now I'm dragging the cursor down. Do you see where that hand is pointing to? It's saying add layer mask.
Okay, I saw when you were moving your cursor to the down part, but then that part
Yeah.
is still covered. It's not showing on my own system. Like, I don't know. It's not showing on my system. Okay, don't worry. Just continue. I'll get it.
Okay. Okay. So what you do is to help you get it. Your layers panel open just like this. Turn back your unmute yourself so you would guide ourselves on how to get there.
Yes,
Your layer
yes,
panel, it is open, right? Is it
yes.
this long or is it short? Is your layer panel like this long or short?
It's short.
Okay, this is what you do. Come to the edge of your layer panel, right? You see you see this white arrow on the edge of your layer panel.
Okay.
So click and drag it up. You increase the size of your layers panel. So everyone too can do this if your layers panel is short. So I mean you'll be able to see multitude of your layers. So have you done that?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right. So now that our subject is selected, we'll just go down. I think you should be able to see these icons beneath your layers panel. Can you see
Yes,
the icons?
yes, sir.
Okay. Count from the left. One, two, then you stop at three.
Okay.
So just leave your mouse on that third one. What did he say?
It's not bringing
Put
up.
your
It's not writing anything.
put your mouse, your cursor, put it on that third one, then leave it. It will give you a description.
It's on it, but it's not bringing out anything.
Okay. All right. So what? I don't know why it's not bringing anything on your this thing, but but at least you can see a rectangle with a circle in it, right?
Yes, sir.
Click on it. That is your layer mask.
Okay, okay.
All right. So when you click on it, Photoshop will remove the background from the image and leave you with just the image. All right.
Yes.
So
It's there.
and we said, has it done that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. You're welcome. Okay. So remember, we said in Photoshop now, when you do layer mask, when you do layer masks, the one in white reveals your subject or your selection or your object. Then the one in black hides it. So when you look closely at this one that has just two colors, black and white, you can see the one in white basically is the shoe we are seeing. Then the black is the background that has gone, right? So in this case now that we said we have realized that Photoshop has done over Sabi and removed this part of the shoe, in fact, the sole itself. This is not how we want to use the image. We definitely need this sole with the shoe. So in this case now, what we do is we'll make sure that this one is selected. That means this black and white box here is selected. The box that is beside this one, this your sneakers box here. This is the first one. Then the second one, you make sure it is selected. How do you know that that box is selected? Is you look at the edge of the box. You have this little you have these four little lines going around the edge. You have this four little line going around there. That is when you know that okay, this is one that is selected. If you try and click on the next one, you see that box. You see those boxes, those broken up boxes. You see they move on to this one. So this time now, this is what we want to select. So you click on the inside of it and it is selected, right? So and remember we said white is for revealing and black is for hiding or concealing. So now we want to reveal the part of the shoe that has gone. So what you do is you go to the brush tool. Shortcut for it is B. You go to the brush tool. You make sure the foreground color, that means the color up first is white. Make sure your brush type is hard round brush. This is where you get your brush type. You go up here, this white circle up here. You click down. You see general brushes. Click on hard round brush. When you are okay with it, just click back up and your brush is active. Also, in some cases, I don't know, your opacity might be down and the flow might be down. Just increase your opacity to 100, flow to 100. This is how you do. You have like three different ways of doing this. The first one is you might leave your cursor on the opacity. You see two arrows going left and right. When you drag the arrow to the left, you are reducing the opacity. That means the intensity or the strength of your brush. But we want it at 100, so you leave it at 100. Your flow, leave it at 100 too. Make sure opacity is 100, flow is 100. All right. Leave all this smoothing and the likes. So now that you've made the setting, you've selected your brush, you've taken it to hard round brush, opacity is 100, flow is 100. Now, to the task at hand, you want to bring this missing part back. So you just make sure it is this black and white box I selected. Then you come over the image, make sure it is white here, and you have selected brush. You just come to the image and paint over you paint over the place you want to reveal, the place you want back. You paint over it. Just paint over this place like this. All right. So we have this place too that has gone. We paint we paint over it to reveal it. I mean to add it back to it. Okay. So I think I remember this part was going yesterday. Okay, yes. So we have this part of the shoe gone. Okay, so yes, now our shoe is whole now. There are no parts of the shoe missing, and we can use this shoe for whatever design we need it for. All right, so that is all about using layer mask. All right, so are we on the same page on that?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
all right, thank you. Okay, so now that we've talked about the clipping marks, okay, let me turn my background back up. So let's just quickly create a background to it. Let's say we want to use, we could, in fact, putting a background to an image, it's not only colors. You can use gradients, you can use colors, you can use pattern background. And if you have another background entirely that you want to use for your image, you can use it. For instance, let's say we have the shoe now and we felt like, okay, we don't want the background to be plain, we just want it to be textured. We can, and we have the image in our computer. You just come to file, place embedded, and we'll place, I think we have that. Okay, let's say we have this fire background now. So we'll place this background to it. Like, let's say this is the background we want for this image. We'll place it to it. All right. So your background can be anything, but you just have to make sure that it makes sense, because you as a designer, you don't want to be pushing out subpar designs. You want to be pushing out good design. All right. So this background to this image is a no-no. All right. So that is that for using background for this thing. So let's move on now to clipping mask. All right. So we said clipping mask. That means to use clipping masks for your design, that means you can bring one element and put it inside another element. That means you will confine it, you will confine the new element to the shape of a previous element. And to do that now, we will try and use a text to illustrate. All right. So let's type. So when you click on T, you know you want to type, right? So in some cases, when you click on T, you look up here, you may have white. All right. In any case where you have white and your background is white, when you start typing, you will not see it. Let me show you. So I have clicked on T. My color here is white, and I start typing. Anything I type here, you will not see it because it is white on a white background, so it is not visible. So let me type I have actually typed, but when you look at this background, you will not know what I typed because this is a white text on a white background. But when you look at this layer, when you look at the layers panel, you will see what I typed. I actually typed design on here. So what will I do to change this? I will have to just go to the characters panel, which is A with a stroke by the side. I'll just click on this place here and change the color. See, I have changed the color. Now you can see what I typed, right? But
Uh,
if you don't,
so I think I was lost a bit there. So let me just understand what you did there. Like, okay, you just pick the text and write the word design, right?
yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay, so let me now do the other way now. So the other way is I have text selected. Okay, I click on T, my shortcut, or I just come down here. Then I click on the canvas once, and I typed something like view design. So you will not see it because it is white. So instead of going to characters panel to change the color, because you are still on T, you still have this properties up here. That means to change the text type, the size of the text, that means the style and the color and even the orientation of the text, the alignment. So you can still just come up here, change the color without having to go to without going to, excuse me, without going to characters panel and doing this thing. All right, so every tool you have here has its settings up here. All right, so you don't have to like go too far for it. So in this case now we have typed U design. We have typed U design, and when you drag on this U design, you see purple line. What the purple line is trying to do is it is trying to help you align the text proportionately to the center. All right. So if you are struggling with this one, you want to align this to the center. Basically, this is not in the center. Okay, let's say our image is like this now. We want to align it to the center, and we cannot really. You are dragging, and it is not sizing up. You are not seeing it. When it is aligned to the center, you see a straight line that goes horizontal and vertical. That means it is aligned proportionately. But in any case where you are finding it difficult to do this, right? You will come down to Windows. You go to you come down to Windows. You go to come in. Okay, what to be alignment adjustment? No. Adjustment. Excuse me, a bit. Okay, sorry, I was thinking about Illustrator. This is Illustrator that has it. Sorry. Okay, so you want to align this into the center. You want it to be in the main center, right? So whilst it's selected on this one, you control. Remember in your Microsoft Word, Control A is to select all, right? So you make sure that it is this one I selected. You Control A. So when you Control A, you have this alignment tool up here on the top panel here. This one. Remember, what we're trying to do is we're trying to align this into the center. We have this element. This is not where we want it, and we have tried to place it to the accurate center. We cannot do it, right? So what we just do is we make sure it is the layer that is selected. Then we just click Control A. In fact, when you click on Control and your mouse is on it, when you click on Control and your mouse is on it, Photoshop will tell you the size, how this thing is placed. It will tell you how many pixels you have to the left. To the left of this element, you have 122 pixels to the left of it. Then to the right of it, you have 85 pixels. Then from the top, of the page to the top of the design, you have 388 pixels. Then from the bottom of the page to the bottom of the design of the text of the elements, excuse me, yes, text and elements, you have 968 pixels, right? So how you get this information is you hold down Control and you put your mouse on the element. That is how you get the size of how your image is placed. So now what we want to do now is we want to align this thing to the center, whereby we would have equal distance from the top of the design from the top of the page to the top of the design, equal distance from the bottom of the page to the bottom of the design, equal distance left and right. So you make sure your design or your element is selected, the layer is selected, and you click Control A to select all. So what Control A would do is it will select this element and it will select the artboard. This is your white artboard, right? So you now come here. Up here, you align horizontal center. You do that first. Then you align vertical center. You do that now. So when the alignment has finished, you just Control D. Let's see if it is proportionate itself. Okay, so now we have the size we have from the top of the page to the top of the design, 678. We also have 678 at the bottom, right? But then when we look at the sides are not proportionately placed. So in this case now, we may have to redo this one, but sometimes it does not really work like that. So you have to just like manually do it. So now that we have 107 from the side and 100 from the side, so that means you have to like tilt it, you have to manually shift it, try and calculate how many. You do a little mathematics, honestly. You do a little maths, all right? So you have 5 from the left, you have 11 from the right. So you have to think, okay, how many will I remove from here, add to 5, that would give me equal spacing. Sometimes you may not even have equal spacing, but it is okay if you have just maybe a pixel off. All right. So now we have 5 on the left, we have 11 on the right. So we want to, if we move this one 4 pixels to the right, then would have 7 here, would have 9 here, not equal, right? So if we move this element 2 pixels to the right, would have 9 here, would have 7 here. So let's move it to the right a little bit. So your element is selected. So you just use your arrow key. You just move your arrow, use your arrow key on the keyboard and just click 1, 2. So let's see if it worked. See how 5 and 11. Let's see how many. Oh, so now we have 108, we have 98, not equal. 1, 2, 3. 103, 104. So this is what I'm talking about. So now that we have 103 and 104, right? If you nudge the element to some parts, you still have imbalance um sizing on the left. All right. You still have imbalance sizing on the left. So what you just do basically is you leave it as is, right? Because in fact, if you even use Photoshop's like to Photoshop like this night is not really balanced. If you do the Control A and do the align vertical, it will change it. So Photoshop cannot really place the elements to make them equal on every side. All right. Mostly you just get the equality on different sides than the other. Like for instance, we have equal size between up and down, but we do not have equal size between left and right. All right. So sometimes it falls on you as a designer to make this adjustment yourself. Okay. So that was just a little addition before we continue to clipping mask. All right. So now the next. Okay. So yeah, the next thing now is clipping mask. All right. So what we want to do is, let me check if you can see here. Can we see hear me and see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So this one is just a little addition, like just a little tip. You get to use it when as a as you go on using Photoshop. Right, so the next one we quickly talk about clipping mask. So we said to use clipping mask. The goal of clipping mask basically is you have an element already, which is your design, right? You want to place another element and you want that element to reflect inside of this design. So what you do is you will import the element, you will place it on the top layer. You make sure the layer is on top. It is directly on top of this original design, and you will clip it on. All right. So for this case, our text to let's change it to
Oh,
uh
sorry, sir. Sorry, before you go to that,
yeah.
I just wanted to confirm, like, so after you change the color of the text to that whatever color it is now, like
Yeah.
did you put the text into a frame, like, or you just put it into a shape or something, or you just leave it like that?
No, the text is like that. It is not in a frame or anything. It is
Okay,
It's just
okay,
in its
okay.
own. Yeah.
All right. Thank
This
you.
is- all right. So now what we want to do is we want to clip we we have the word flower, right? And we want to click flower, the image of a flower inside the text. So let me source for a flower image. Let me source for a flower image. Come in. Pexels.com. Let me share. Okay, so we can see the Pexel homepage. So we want okay, we just need an image to just clip inside the text. Okay, let's say this one. Okay, yeah, that's downloaded. So we'll go back to our Photoshop, Windows, Photoshop, share. All right, so we have flower now, the word flower here, and we want to place an image of flower inside. We do not want the image of the flower to go outside. We want it to reflect inside of the text. So we have the layer that says flower. So now we go and import our image. So go to File, Place Embedded. It is a recent one I downloaded. So it is up here or Place. So now that we've placed the image is on top and it is covering the word flower. This is not what we want. In fact, if we drag the image under, you can see the word flower faintly on top because it does not really have a great contrast, but at least you can still make out
Sorry,
the
sir.
word flower. Yeah.
So please, I just want to ask, where do you usually get your images from? Like, what site do you download your images from?
Okay, let me copy the link and send to the group.
Okay.
Pexels.com. There are
Oh,
plenty other ones, but the one I just easily go to is Pexels.com. So
oh,
yeah, let me send it to the group. Okay, I have sent it to the group. So that is where I get my images from. Real quick. Okay, there's another one. Let me send that one too before we have on Splash. We have Pexels, you have on Splash, you have plenty of them. All right. So these are just like the main two ones I just go to quick without even thinking about it. Okay, so yeah, the goal now is clip we want to clip our flower image inside our flower text, right? We cannot do this because the flower image is behind the flower text. So basically what we do is we either drag this image to the top of the text. So when you drag it to the top of the text, you can see that your text is not visible again. Do not worry about it. What you're trying to do is just clip this image inside the text. So we come to the text layer. This is our layers panel. And anyone that is selected, you see it has this gray color around it. So we come to the text layer, we right click. When you right click, you have this pop up. So what you want to do is you want to create clipping mask. When you see create clipping marks, click on it.
Sorry, nothing is popping up here. I didn't say the options for your right click. Or is it just
Right click on your image. Have you done that? Just go to your image. Let me send this image to the group so we would follow along. I think I almost forgot about that. Let me send it to the group so we know the one we are using. All right, the image is loading. Have we seen it? Okay. right. So now that we have the image with us now, let's go back. Okay. So try. Let's. You have written the text flower, right? I assume you have written the text flower. Now the next thing is to import your image. So you have two options. You can go to where the image is, drag and drop it to Photoshop, or you can use place embedded. Okay. So now that we've placed embedded, let's say for any case, maybe you when you placed embedded, your image went under the flower, just drag it and put it on top of it. It is just an arrangement. It's like the way you arrange your stack of books, just basically arrangement. So the one on top is on top, then the one below it is below it, right? Okay. So now that you've imported your image, this is your image, this is your flower. So you come to you make sure that the two elements you want to give this effect, they are directly close. That means the image is on top of the text. You can see the image on top. You can see the text here, right? So now that you have the image, you right click on the image. Um, the person asking that question, right click on the image. I hope you get your clipping mask. Okay. So when you right click on the image, you get this pop up that says aside from blending option and all these other ones. But what we need for this case is our clipping create clipping marks. You click on create clipping marks and you see that image has been confined to the shape of the text. That means it is not going outside our text. Our text me which is our flower. So let me confirm this.
Sorry. My question here is so what if when we first write the text and which will probably the default color will probably be black. So
Yeah.
once we change the color, or even if the text is in black, will this still have an
Yeah.
effect, or will it not have an effect on it?
Okay. That's the question.
Yes. I just wanted to know,
All right.
like, is it possible? Because I noticed that you first change the
Yeah.
text colors, and is it necessary? Can we still leave it as the black and just import the pictures and
Yes, yes. Okay, so his question basically is that when we created the text, we had to change it to this color before we did all these things. But it is not really necessary. I think the reason for doing that is because we initially had a white text and we had a white background. So it is just for visibility. So let's just change the color to the original white it is, right? So now the text is white, but we cannot see it coming. The text is white, but we cannot see it because it is on this background. But you now, as a pro designer, right? You cannot see the text, but you know the text is there. I mean, without bothering, you can still actually import your image. When you import your image, it is on top. You right click, you create your clipping marks. It will clip it on it. The only reason why we changed the color of the text was for visibility, so we'll be able to know where the text is, not because the color would affect the create clipping marks option. In fact, if we even change the color of the text to black and do the create clipping marks, you still see it. All right. So the color of the text does not stop your create clipping marks effect on it. So that's that. So you can see that when I toggle the visibility of that clipping marks off, it is only the image you have. Excuse me, it is only the text you have, right? That one too works. You remember that when you toggle the visibility of an element, of the element will not be visible on this place, but you'll be seeing it on the layer that okay, the element is actually part of my layer, but it is not here. Remember we have that the sneakers element, the sneaker, excuse me, we have the sneaker right here. And because we toggle the visibility of that means the eye icon, we switched it off. You cannot see the shoe here, but it is here. Also, if we turn it back on now, you can see this one here. let's say in fact we just feel like we want to do any one fine effect, we just like drag this shoe icon beneath the flower image, the flower this thing. So mind you now, if you have two elements clipped that you've used clipping marks on, if you drag another element between them, it will affect your effect. Let's say, for instance, we have this one now. It is beneath flower, right? So we drag it between flower and this image. It is gone. Let me take it back. So you just try as much as possible not to interfere with your clipping marks. In fact, if you have your shoe on top now, your shoe is actually only blocking the effect but not interfering with the effect. But let's say we want to even clip the shoe inside here. We already have a clipping marks now. We have a flower inside the text, right? But now we feel like let's clip the shoe inside of it. We right click on the shoe, we create clipping marks. So you have two elements clipped inside. I don't know if you can see the path of the shoe. This is the path of the flower. This is the path of the shoe. This is the shoe's lace here, in fact. You see, the reason for this one is that you can see both is that the shoe is not actually big enough to cover the entirety of the flower. That is why you can see some part of the shoe, some part of the flower. But you know the flower image is bigger than the shoe. So if the shoe's layer went under beneath the flower, you will not see it because the flower's image is bigger than the shoe's image. So you would only have this one visible because it is on top and it is bigger than this one. But if we toggle the visibility of the flower off, the only thing you see clipped inside of here is your shoes image inside your flower text. All right, so that is just for illustration. So now we have the shoe clipped inside here, but we don't want it to be clipped inside. We come back here, we right click, we release clipping marks. So you create clipping marks to clip an item, then you release clipping marks to remove it from any element. All right, so that's on that.
Sorry, sir. Please, can you do the releasing clipping marks again?
Okay.
Okay.
So let's say we don't want this flower image on this flower text. We don't want it like we say like no, this is not the flower we want. So you come to the image of the flower, the layer of the flower. You right click the same way you right click to do clipping marks. You right click, then you see release clipping mask. So when you click on release clipping marks, it removes it from the image, and you'll see here that there is no arrow pointing down. So
Oh,
let's take it back to clipping marks again. You right click, you create clipping marks. So when you create clipping marks, check the layer. The layer has an arrow on the side that is pointing down. So if you've done this clipping marks, I believe you can see it. You have an arrow from the image pointing down. It is giving you, remember we said in design, we have different elements to show function. So also in Photoshop, this element too, this arrow is showing the function of it, is showing you the relationship. So we are seeing this tiny arrow by the side. It is coming from this image, pointing down to the flower. And you see the base layer. That means the base image, the image that is the original image that you started adding things inside. It is like pot. Okay, yes, let me use pot for instance. This is our pot. This is our water. It is a pot that is containing the water. It is not the water that is containing the pot. So in this case now, the one that is acting like the pot, the one that is acting like the container that you are putting your other elements inside, that you are clipping your plenty elements inside, would be underlined. It will be the one you see this, you see it is underlined, right? So it is showing you that okay, this is the base layer, this is the original layer that is collecting all the clipping and all the ingredients you are putting inside. All right. So let me right click and release clipping marks. So to do clipping marks has a shortcut too. You know, the first one we said you have to come here, right click, create clipping marks. To do clipping marks has a shortcut. So what you do is the image you want to clip to another one, You come between them. You make sure they are close together. That means this one is on top, this one is beneath. You come between them. You come to the center of it. You hold down Alt. The moment you hold down Alt, remember that arrow we're talking about that is pointing down? You see it here. You're holding down Alt and you in between the two layers, right? So the moment you see this arrow, you left click. It creates the clipping mask. That's a quick shortcut for it. So I'll take it back. We have this flower image. We want to clip it to this one. That means we want to place it inside the flower text. So we say the first method is you right click on the image, you create clipping marks. Then the second method is you bring your cursor to the center of the two layers. You hold down Alt. In fact, if your cursor is here, you hold down, just hold down Alt. Just hold down Alt. When you hold down Alt, you see the arrow. You see that okay, the arrow is pointing down. You just clip, and that's that for clipping marks. I hope that is clear.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, all right. So that's that for clipping marks, by the way. So now you can choose to move your flower, that means the image you clipped inside, but if you want to move the two together, you have to select them both. So this one is selected. You have to hold down Shift, select this one, and move them together. See. So you have to make sure you want to move them both. If you are clicked on only one, you'll be able to move just one. Well, you want to select them both, you want to move them both, you have to select, you make sure this one is selected, you hold down Shift. You hold down Shift for making multiple selection on your layers. So you click on this one. So you see they are both selected. That means they have the gray highlight. So you just come here and do your movement as you deem fit. All right. So that's that for moving it. So we have excuse me. So we have quickly gone over clipping mask and layer mask. So the next one now we'll talk about is smart objects. So to illustrate smart objects, let me do this. No, this one. Right. This work. Okay, so we have those two images side by side, right? You can tell that they are of the same quality. When you look at this artboard, you know they are of the same quality. But when you look at the layer, that means the layers panel, you have one that it is a smart object and one is not a smart object. So what smart object helps you do is smart object help you retain the quality of your image. So when you import your image to Photoshop, it's a smart object that will help you retain the quality of it. If you scale it up or down, smart object will still be able to remember the quality of your image. So now we have two images. We have one image that we duplicated. One is a smart object. This is the one on the left is a smart object. The one on the right isn't a smart object. At this size, the quality does not change, but let's try scaling them down and up. So we have selected them both. We'll do Control T and scale down. We'll do Control T and scale down. We've scaled them down. There is no difference, right? So now let's bring them back up. Okay, wait. let me see. Control T. We have 194, 920. Okay, so let me scale them back up. Okay, so look closely at this image. Can you tell which one is the smart object and which one is not the smart object? Okay, Nafisa, we're using Control T. If you want to reduce the size of your image or increase the size of your image to scale up or down, so you click Control T, then you see this four these angles on the side, then you push them down and up. All right. So the question now is, can we tell which of this image is a smart object and which one isn't a smart object? Yeah,
The
Olaji,
right,
thank you.
the right one is a smart object. The left is not a smart object. But
Okay, so you say the right one is a smart object, the left one isn't a smart object.
yes,
Okay.
For me, I
Anybody?
think for me, I think the sharp one, the one with the sharp image is the smart object. Then the blurry image is the non-smart object.
Okay, thank you too. All right. Thank you, Madam Oya, and thank you, Esther, for the responses. All right. So we are just trying to recognize the function of smart objects in Photoshop. So basically with these two images now, you see the one on the left. Remember that we scale these images down with the same. They are of the same size, right? We scale them down, then we increase their size. And the moment we increase their size, you see one retained its sharpness, and you see one going blurry. So you see the one that is still sharp is a smart object, and the one that is blurry is a rasterized object. So yes, so they're like words and opposites now. Smart object and rasterized image, they are words and opposites. So if you have a rasterized image, if you scale a rasterized image up, it will lose its quality. If you scale it down, nothing will happen to it. But the moment you scale a rasterized image up, it will start losing its quality. But you see a smart object, if you scale it down, the quality remains. If you scale it up, the quality still remains. So that is why we quickly illustrated this thing with this little exercise where we have. I remember we say a smart object has this little icon on the down right of it. That means on the down part of it, a smart object has this icon. So let's take this one off and see. Oh, so you see the one on the left is the smart object, and the one on the right is the rasterized image. So how you get a rasterized image? The only problem now is that in Photoshop now, if you want to create some effect to an image, you cannot do it because it is rasterized. Because it is a smart object. Let's say, for instance, now this image, this one which is a smart object. Let me take it off. Let's say this smart object now we want to create. We want to make. We have pimples. Oh, speaking of pimples, let me just bring that image in. So I'll show you the difference. Not this. Not this. File. Place embedded. Look for the image. Looking for that lady's image. Okay. So you say, originally when you import an image to Photoshop, it automatically gives you the image as a smart object. You see as a smart object. So let's make a duplicate of the image now. Just do that. Don't worry about it. Duplicate. So now we have this image, and we want to make this adjustment to the lady's skin, and we want to use spot healing brush too, right? So you see, we cannot do anything on it because it is a smart object. So this problem is Photoshop's issue, but I think with the recent version, they are trying as much as possible to make sure we can edit smart object without having to rasterize it. All right. So remember that we even covered rasterize in I think like 2 previous class, or which can't remember, but we covered rasterize. So what I was saying about smart object is that the one disadvantage about smart object is if I want to edit this image now, I cannot do it because it is a smart object. So this edit I want to make to this image will force me, it will force my hand into turning this image to a rasterized image. And you know that the moment you scale up a rasterized image, it will lose its quality. So the quality is like this, nothing will happen to it. So now I want to make this quick adjustment to this lady's skin tone. So if I click on it, it will not work because it is a smart object. And Photoshop will ask me to rasterize a smart object. Because I want to edit it, I have to just agree and click OK. I'll just do my job real quick, on the skin, do it real quick on the skin, right? So now that I've finished editing the skin, it is a smart object. It is a rasterized object, excuse me. You will see rasterized object does not have any box on the side. So it is a rasterized object, and I know that maybe at a point in time during my design, I may have to scale this image up. And because it is a rasterized object, if I scale it up, it will lose the quality. So I'll just go back here to the layer of the image. I'll turn it back to a smart object. How you do that is you come to the image, to the layer, you right click, you convert to smart object. So let's try scaling up. You see, we have scaled up and is same. Okay, let me even make a duplicate of it so we'll be able to. Let me rasterize this one. Coming down to be able to separate. All right. Okay, so we have these 2 images now. One is a smart object and one is a rasterized layer. So we want to scale it up. Let me try. There's nothing. I'm trying to make sure that we can see it clearly. Okay. So can we see the lady's eye? Can we see this part of the image?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so when we look closely at this image, trying to zoom. Okay, yes. So when you look closely at this image, you will see that one of the eye is sharp, then the other one is not so sharp. This one that is sharp, even though you scale it up, scale it down, it will remain sharp compared to the one that is not a smart object. So this one that is on the right, that is not so sharp, is a rasterized object. Rasterized object or rasterized layer, while this one on the left is a smart object. So remember we said initially, this is the picture we had initially, right? This is the picture we imported to Photoshop to edit. So, and we could not make any correction to this image because it is a smart object. So what we had to do is rasterize the image. So the first thing we did was rasterize the image. Then we created we adjusted the image. We did the correction on the image, and immediately we finished doing the correction without even scaling it up or down. We turned it back to a smart object. So that one, because the quality is still retained in the image without scaling up or down, we change it back to a smart object real quick. we had finished what we want with it. So we change it back to a smart object. So then we're able to scale it down and up, and it will not lose the quality at all. So that is the function of a smart object. There are plenty functions to smart objects. All right, so there are plenty functions to smart objects. We'll begin to explore them the more designs we make. So the next one, we want to talk about wrapping text or warping text. So in Canva, I think in our Canva class, yes, it was in our Canva class that we had this effect in Canva that enabled us to use our image in a like a a curved effect. I think it was on effect and shape. So we have this image that went around the distance. So we'll try to do that in Photoshop. So to do that in Photoshop, what you do is you go to your shape tool. When you go to your shape tool, you make sure that it's your ellipse tool that is selected. Right? When you go to your shape tool, make sure it's your ellipse tool that is selected. Make sure there is no fill. You remove the fill and make sure there is no stroke. All right. Make sure there is no fill or stroke. So you come and draw a circle. Let me take it back. What we want to do is we want to wrap our text around, we call it path, P-A-T-H. We want to round our text around the path. We want our text to follow the lines of a circle, right? So what we do is we come and select the shape, which is the ellipse tool. When you select the ellipse tool, you come up to fill, stroke, you remove everything. And you know, but for removing everything, you have to click on this first one that is red line going through. So there's no color on anything to it. So you just come on your canvas or your artboard and draw and drag and drop. All right. You hold down shift to have accurate measurement. So when you do this now, you'd have this 4 nodes. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. So on your layers panel, you see a new layer automatically created that says ellipse. Okay. So when you have this ellipse created on your panel, so you come to T, you notice that this thing is still selected, is still for that means you still have this blue point. So originally to create text, we use T to create text, and you just click once and type. You just click once and type. That is how you create text, right? But in this case, what we want to do is we want to make sure our text is going around this circle.
Hello, Mr. Dan.
Ma?
For you to have these 4 nodes in the ellipse, do you have to select it? Because I
No,
noticed
no, no.
once you drop it, the whole thing goes off. I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, okay. So how you do it is that because you see, I'm even selecting it's not coming up. Let me go back. Because it does not, what you do is you don't even have to create a new layer. The goal is we're trying to make a text go around the circle, right? So you click on your circle shape. You go to your shape tool. You make sure it is the ellipse tool you have selected. Then the fill, there will be no fill to it. There will be no stroke to it, right? You now come and create the circle first. So when you create the circle first, you'd you would see the 4 nodes on this. This is because you have created the circle. It has no fill, it has no shape. You have created the circle. It has its 4 nodes. The next thing you just do without deselecting, you just click on T. We went from here to here. We went from the shape to T2. So we just click on T, which is the shape text tool. So now that I clicked on the text tool, you have option of creating text. The normal way of creating text is if you want to create text, you just click on where you want to create the text and click. If you want to create text to a defined box, you click and drag and start typing. But this one, all we want to do is want to make sure the text is going around this circle. So now that we have selected T, you drag you just make sure this thing is here, positioned on the edge of this ellipse you've created. So when it is on the edge, you see this wavy line. When you see this wavy line, that means anything you type would go around it. All right. When you see this wavy line, that means anything you type will go around it. You can see maybe at a point in time, this thing changes. If your T cursor is inside of the circle, that means anything you type would actually take on the shape of this text. So let's try this for instance. I click inside and I do type this lorem ipsum and I change the size to, come on, let me change the size to about, okay, 12, paragraph, center. All right. So if you click inside of the circle, everything you type would actually go around in circle, but it will be inside, not outside. But what we're trying to do is to place the text outside of the circle, not inside of it. You may have instances where a situation or design project where you have to place your text inside of a shape. The first step is to create the shape as a path. You can use a pen tool, but if you don't want to use the pen tool, you use the shape tool, but you make sure the shape has no fill and has no stroke. All right. So when you do that, you use your T, that's your text tool. You just come inside of that shape, click on it, and you'd have your text going along the shape of the object. All right. So now we want to just create it around it, not inside. So the first thing we did was we went to shape, we made sure there's no fill, there's no stroke, and we just drag and drop. Then immediately we just went to text and we'll place it on the edge of it. So you see all these four nodes that you are seeing. Their function is anywhere you want your text to start from. So if I want my text to start from this one, that means anything I click from here will start from here and go. If I want it to start from here, anything I click from here, that means the text will start from here and go. You get. So the first thing is we want the text to go around it. We just click on the edge. In fact, you see all this default text. This is lorem ipsum. Let me leave it. So see what we have. We have this text all around it. So if you want to edit it, you can just double click on the text, or you can come to the edge of the box here and double click. So let's say we want to have this. This is the design. Okay. Oh, sorry. So we have our text now. We have our text now, and say, okay, well, let's try and do. Let's take about
Hello, Mr.
5.
Dam. Please,
Ma.
sorry. I think you have to do this again. My own is just typing inside the ellipse tool, but it's not taking the shape of the circle. So please, I really have to get what you just did. It's just typing
Okay.
just like a normal text. It's not taking it's not giving me that shape of ellipse. I mean the text.
Okay. So what you want to do is you have these four nodes, right? You can see them on your artboard. So you click the T, which is for text. then you bring it.
Oh, wait, these four notes must be there, right? When you
Yes,
create ellipse.
yes.
Okay. Even when it's not selected, this four note must be there.
So you see that it is not selected and it has gone. Even if I do like this, it has gone. So let me just cancel. I think click on this one. Okay, you make sure you change this thing to you okay. Originally, when you click on circle, you have shape. Make sure you change it to path. So when you change it to path, you don't even have to worry about going to shape and removing all these ones. So click on your shape, make sure it is changed to path here. Then you just command drag and drop. So when you drag and drop, you have this path. Make sure all of these, when you create this one, you don't even have to press anything else. The next thing you just need to press is just T. All right. So when you press the T, you bring it, you see this one.
Sir, come
That's it.
again. I didn't understand, sir.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to the creating the part two. What we want to do now is we want to write a text, but we want the text to go around a particular shape. And the shape we chose for this one is a circle because we mostly put text around circles. So we come to shape two. That is the first step. So when you come to shape two, what you have originally is shape, the top bar, you have shape, you have fill, stroke, right? To make things easier, just quickly change this shape, change it to path. So when you change it to path, you see that this fill shape, this thing has gone. It is not there again. Just change it to path because what you are trying to do is you want to place your text around the path. The path are just the lines, but the lines with all these blue nodes, that is what the path is. They are editable things in Photoshop. So when you change it to path, you just come here, create circle. So you have created the circle now. You have it here. The next thing you want to do is without clicking off this place, without going anywhere, you can just click T on your keyboard for the shortcut, or you can just come in and locate it. So when you find it, the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure your T that you brought in is on the edge. That means it is on the circle. The lines of you see these blue lines that you have. You want to make sure your T is on it. When you place your T on it, you have this dotted wavy line. You have these dotted wavy lines going around it. But if by mistake or if what you want to do is different, you will bring it inside. So now when you bring the T inside the circle, you see the dotted lines going around it. I'm showing you the bounding box. That means the box of the shape. So this is what it's telling you that you see the lines are around it, then the T is inside. That means anything you click right now here would be inside of the circle. But if you place it on the edge of the circle and have this one is showing you that anything you click here would go around the circle, not inside. All right, so let me confirm if that is understood. The Kirila, is he understood? This is Joker. The Joker company, is he understood? Or should I go over it again?
I don't know. For now, for me, I got it now. It's just for us to type the test, so I will not know if it has taken effect. For me, I
Okay,
don't know
okay.
about that. Yeah.
Okay. So let me confirm. I'm trying to ask him now. So before we type the text now, so I'll just know if everyone is on the same page. The Joker company, are we on the same page?
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah, yeah.
responding.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay. All right, sir. All right, sir. Okay, so now we have the text. We have placed the text on the edge of the box, and we have this wavy dotted line going around it. The next thing to just do is just click on it. If you click on it, you see a default text, which is the Lorem Ipsum. Yes. So this is telling you that this is how your text would appear. What you do, you just start editing it. You just start typing, like you will just start typing your this is the design track of Nerds Factory. All right. Have we done this? So let's talk about 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes too small. Let's take about 5 minutes to do this if we've not done it. So please, if you've done it, just click on, just type done on the Zoom chat. So we'll continue. All right. So let's wait for a few more
Yeah,
people.
yeah, done. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. So if you are done, just click on, just type done in the comment section. So okay, so we have plenty of people done with it. Okay, so now you have to note that in some cases whereby you click on it and your text is very, very big, it is way beyond it, right? All you have to just do is you make sure it is your text layer selected, character. We want to increase this one, we'll go to 50. You see, we have increased it. If you want to reduce it, you reduce. It's also the same way the way you reduce text and increase text. See, right? So that's this one. So now let's say in this case now, this is not the trajectory you want your text to follow. Oh, okay, there's even a little typo here. Let me just click on it and edit. Oh yeah, next factory. But let's say in this case now there's a little typo. This is not the trajectory of your text. I mean, this is not how you want it to go. You want it to start from here. So you come to this one, this arrow beside T. The shortcut for it is A. Just click on A. So when you click on A, you'd have this arrow. You see a black arrow, a white tipped arrow, and a black arrow. This is the black one we need. So you see, this is a black arrow, right? So what we want to do next is we want to change the way this text is. We want to make sure that this is starting from here and everything is on the side. So when you click shortcut A on your keyboard, you click shortcut A on your keyboard, you make sure it is a black tipped arrow that is selected. Then you come back to your text. I mean, when you come back to your text, you see these two arrows giving you direction that's like a butterfly. So what you just do is when you are on this place, you left click. Imagine this even went directly like this. You left click and just change the nodes. You see two circles. You see one here and one under. Just try and rearrange them. Try and push them like this. Don't worry, this can be maybe a little bit challenging at first, but Photoshop does not really give much freedom to do this thing. So it is in Adobe that I have a lot of freedom to do this thing. But in a way, as graphic designer, we just have to find a way to go around these things. Yes, go around these things. Like for instance, now in okay, just let me leave down. Let me leave down. All right, so let me check the comment if so. Let's try and do this one that we just did. You select A, you make sure that is the white A. In fact, you can even use the white listing for it. So as you are dragging it, you would be seeing. Okay, if I leave it now, it will go. When you hold down left click, you see this circle. You notice two circles. You notice two circles. So it is where these circles are that will determine where the text will start from or the trajectory of the text. Now I have one under. When you look at this text, you can see this one under and this one on top. So that is telling me that my text will go like this. If I move, if I keep moving that circle to another position, you see where my text will start from. And if I want to push this text inside of this thing, I will, while still holding down left click, I will drag it inside. If I push it, if I drag it outside, it will go outside. If I drag it inside, it will go inside, but it will still go around the edge of the circle. So just if you want to get this place, just shortcut A, either the white arrow or the black tipped arrow. You can use either to do this adjustment. All right. So if I drag it inside, it will push my text inside, but still along the path. If I drag it outside, it is outside. You can see the difference, right? Inside, outside. And if I want to do it like this, see, come to the edge like this. So just take some minutes and play around these things. I jumpy. Okay. If I want to all right, so just take some about 2 minutes to practice that. So the goal is not to perfect this tool right now. The goal is just to give you an idea of how it functions and what each of everything does. All right, so that is the goal on that. Okay, so after 2 minutes would this is 10:40, so 10:42 would continue. So just take about 2 minutes to just try and practice that. Okay, our 2 minutes are up. So if we did that exercise, our 2 minutes are up for the exercise we did. All right, so now the next thing is we want to learn how to do text effect. So I'm going to create a text, type in a text. I have typed the text. I'm going to increase the size. All right, so I have increased the size of the text now. So up next, what we want to do is we want to warp a text. So warp a text, that means we want to distort the text. We want to give it another shape or another orientation. So what we do is we have this text now. We come to type. We come to type and we click on warp text. Or while still selected on the text, I think. Yes, you can come to the layer of the text and click on warp text. All right. So you can get it from here. Right click on the layer, warp text, or you come to type warp text. Excuse me. So either of the two, I mean, the angle is what you want to do with it. So we want to warp this text now. Click on warp text. So when you click on warp text, you will see the pop-up is warp text, right? But the style presently, the default style is none. That means you have nothing done to it. So you click on the drop down. When you click on the drop down now, you will see different warp style. You have arc, you have lower arc, you have arc upper, arc, bulge, shell lower, shell upper, flag, wave, fish, etc. down up to twist. So all of these things you are saying are effects that you can give your text to make your text go in different ways or different direction. So the first one we'll try out is the arc, right? So we'll click on arc. So the moment you click on arc, you see your text here change. So this is the arc. You have seen it has gone in the shape of an arc or in the direction of an arc. So the first thing we have is we have blend 50, horizontal distortion 0, vertical distortion 0. So at this point now, this is where you begin to give it the style you want. You begin to give it the accurate and proportionate style you want. So here now, let's try this one. Let's say if I reduce it, taking the slider down. I have little arc. If I even go down to minus, it will change direction and put the arc on top. I mean, to make the arc start from the top. You can see. So the more arc you have, the more bend you have, the more distorted your text is. So you want to try as much as possible to just make it. You see, we have 100 and it is so bent, so distorted. So you want to try and be around where it makes sense, like 15 or 20. But then this one depends on how you want or what you want. As a designer, it is your choice at the end of the day. So this is basically just to show us what this does. So it is how you want to use it that matters at the
Somebody
end.
says you should take it again.
Oh, somebody did?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right, all right. So let me cancel. Let me even cancel the text. So what I want to do now is create a text. Type text. The size is small. Come to character. Increase it. All right. So this is what I have, and I want to warp it. That means I want to give it this different style. I want to put different style to the text. So I have two ways of doing this. I can come to the layers panel. While my text is still selected, I will right click on it, warp text down here. That is one way of doing it. Then the other way of doing it is while my text is being selected and it is here, I'll come to type. I'll warp text. All right. So anyway, if you click it from here, if you click it from here, it will take you to warp text. So we click on warp text. So when you click on warp text, you see that your style is by default none. That means you've not done anything to it to change the way it is. But now we want to change the way it is. We want to change the way it is flowing, either zigzag or whatnot. So what you do is you click on this none, this drop down. You see this arrow pointing down. You see one function of arrow there. It is telling you there is more to it. I'm pretty sure we've seen this thing plenty times from our mobile apps. So when you see arrow pointing down, that means there's something inside. So when you click on it, it will give you more options to that. So now the main aim of coming here is we want to try as much as possible to give this text a style, right? And it is a warp style. So we have different types of warp style here. We have the arc, you have the lower arc, you have the arc upper. Oh, this is arc lower. You have this is arc, this is arch, this is bulge, this is shell lower, this is shell upper. So let us start with this arc. So when you click on one, okay, let's say we click on this arc, we click on this one. Just try and click, just be clicking. You've not really done anything, you're just like sampling them. Yes, you're sampling them to see what they do. You just like, oh, okay, this is what they do. Flag, okay, wave, fish. This is like gives you like a fish shape. It transforms your text in the shape of like a fish. This is rise, okay. This is fish eye. This is inflate, squeeze, twist. All right. So all of these ones that you are just clicking once without actually doing anything. You are just sampling them and you are trying to see, okay, what is this one and what is that one and what does this one do? All right. So the next step now is to choose a particular. Okay. So the next step now is to choose a particular style to give your text. So for in this case now, let's choose arc, which is the first one. So by default, when you choose any of this style, you see that the bend is by default on 50 and horizontal. So that means the text, this thing you are giving it is going in this line. It's going along this line that you are seeing, not this one. That means any effect you are giving it is going. That is why it is on horizontal. So we have chosen arc now, and we have 50, right? And we say, okay, for instance, or for me now, I don't like the way the text has this much arc in it. It's sort of distorted the text way too much, and I don't want this. So what I'll do is the bend. The bend is basically how much of the bend effect is applied to the text. So by default, Photoshop applies plus 50 bend to it. So the way you are seeing this text now, it is actually bent to the degree of 50. All right. So what we do now is let's try. If we increase it, it has so much bent that it looks bad. If you decrease it, it has so much bend that it looks bad. But we want to keep it to a more sensible bend. Let's say about 24, let's say 25, 26. All right. This is a bend. In fact, let's say we want to keep it at 0. So when your bend is at 0, nothing happens to it. That means there's no effect to it. All right, so that is what that one is. So let's take this bend to 25. X is bent to 25. That means plus 25 for its bend. Now let's look at this horizontal distortion and vertical distortion. If I slide, originally they are both on 0. But if I slide this to the left, you see that it is the effect it is doing. It is only increasing the effect horizontally. You see that this one becomes, the T here becomes bigger and the other part of this one becomes smaller. So this is horizontal effect that is applying to it. That means it is going along this line, right? So if I take it down, you see, oh, sorry, I took down the bend. The bend was at 25, right? Our horizontal distortion, you see, trying to tell you. All right, so you see that the effect now is on a straight line this time because this one becomes bigger and this one becomes smaller. And our horizontal bed is at 97. So let's say we increase it to about 24. It changes it, right? So let's take this thing down to 0. So we are in 0, we have 25 bend, and we have 0 vertical distortion. So now we want to distort it vertically. That means straight like this, up and down, not left and right. All right. So horizontal, left and right. Vertical, up and down. So now I want to distort it up and down. So let's see what it does. It is distorting the text up and down. You see the up now is becoming wilder. The up is becoming wilder while the bottom is becoming smaller and the text is going off. Let's try and put it down to a positive number. All right. It's a positive number. So you can see we are distorting up and down. The bottom became so much wide while the top became so small. Okay. Is that okay, or is there any need to go over the WAP text, or should we apply another WAP text so it would be clear?
It's okay for me.
Okay. All right.
It's okay
So
for me too.
all right. So we don't like this vertical distortion, so we just have to take it down to 0. All right. So let's say we have done this text now, this effect to it. You see that your text layer, that means your T, would have this line going around it. It is telling you that, okay, now this text has been warped. All right. So I think if you double click on it on this place, you can actually edit this text. That means you can change this text and it will still retain this warp effect. So let's see what to change it to something like effect. Oh, sorry. Have effect. So you
So
see, it's still
wait,
yeah.
so you double click to do that, right? For you to edit.
Yes. To edit this box here, you double click to do it, or you come and double click on the text inside the canvas itself. So one of the ways to change your text, you come inside the box. If you double click on this place, it will take you somewhere else, or it will assume you want to rename the text, the layer. I think while you are working, it is mostly advisable to try as much as possible to rename your layer, but that would come after. Just know at the back of your mind that it is okay to rename your layer in cases where you are working on a multiple team. You are not the only person working on the design, whereby you have to design and you send it to somebody else. You are collaborating on the design. So it is okay to name your layer. If you have similar elements together, you have to group them, then you rename the group. So any other person that comes in that wants to work on the project will know, okay, this group, okay, this is a group for icons. Okay, yes, it is icon that is under here. So that is one good practice for design too. But I mean, we have plenty of people that do not name layer because I really actually started renaming my layers too. Before I don't really rename layer, I'll leave them like this. Let them be like this. I don't even group. So you see tons of layers. You see plenty layers that this scroll bar. You see the scroll bar is big. I'll have so much layer that this scroll bar will be so small that I have to be going down. This is very, very stressful. So what I'll do is elements that are similar, that and elements that are together that have the same function or the same effect that I just know, okay, this one belongs together. I'll group them, I'll rename them. So when you group, let me try and group for you. So you see, when you group, you have smaller layer. You see, you have like 1, 2, 3. So in this group, you have plenty things inside. If I have another plenty thing, I'll group them, right? So I'll have small this thing. You see, the scroll bar is not even there anymore because I mean there's no need for it to scroll. So it is not there anymore. So, but if I want anything from any group, I'll just open the group by clicking this drop down icon, and you see the scroll bar will appear, right? But if I close down the group, it has gone. So you try as much as possible to group similar elements that have the same function or this thing, and rename your layers and your group. So back on how to edit text, you want to change this text. You have 3 different ways of doing it. The first method is while the text is on, you can just come to the text with your move to, you double click on it here on the canvas and you change it to text 10, right? It is coming out with this arc because you can see from this layer that it has that effect. So one way of changing text is double clicking on the text itself. Another way is coming to this box here that has the layer of your text. You double click on it. It is the same thing. I will change it to text.
Mr.
Right?
Dan, can you put color to it? Is it possible?
Yes, you can add color to it. Yes. Your text is selected. You go to your characters panel. You see color on this side. That means this is your A that has side. If you cannot see your characters panel, just come to window. When you come to window, come to window and you see character. Just make sure it has this tick by the side. Then it will bring it out on this side. So if you want to add color to it, like we have this text effect now, this arc effect, I want to add color to it. We come to our character panel that has this A by this A and stroke. Then you see color. The color we have here is basically black. We want to change the color of the text. We just click inside here and change. When you change, you see it take effect here immediately without even having to go anywhere, you see. So let's say we change it to this blue. Okay, we're done with it. So we'll go back to our layers panel and say, okay. So we said the first way is double clicking to activate and edit. The second way is coming inside here to do that. Then the third way is you just go to the T itself. Yeah, you go to the T itself, then you come to the text. And let's say we had a typo. We had a typographical error. So we could just use the T itself. Just click on T. We just come here. We just come to any part of the text. If we want to start editing from you just come and click on the text. I mean, you would even see the cursor or this blinking stroke. You see it on the edge, right? So this is enable you to edit. So just do texting. All right. So that's that. So in any case whereby you have okay, let's quickly cover this. Wait, what's the time? Oh, it's 11. Let's quickly cover this part of this text before we go on break. Real quick. So this one that has this small t and this big T is to increase the size of the text. This one is to increase the size of the text. This one up here that is showing you Times New Roman is to change the text. You have different text. I have different text. So anyone you are changing it to will be automatically updating on your this thing. All right. So let's say I have all this text in my this thing. You will not have this text because you have not installed them. But the text that Google you would have on your Photoshop actually are the text you have on your computer by default. Right. So let's say we are using Arial. I think everyone has Arial, right? So the area you just chooses, we have this one. So this panel here, this box here is to change your text effect. Then this one I is showing you regular is your text weight. Because after the break, we'll cover typeface and font. So just remind me when we come back from break. So we'll try and cover typeface and font. So we'll know the differences and the similarities. All right, so this one is the effect now. Just the same way you have your bold, Italy or Italy what they call it, your underlined and the rest in this your Microsoft Word, the same thing you have. So we have area now. It is on regular, but we want to change it to something bold. You just click on this drop down. You see, we have bold, we have black. But note that it is not all the text that you would have or you will install will have these things. Some of the text you would have only regular, right? So in that case now, you want to make sure your text is bold, but your text actually has only option for regular. What you do is just come down here. You see all this panel. The first one here is, you can see the T here. Okay, you even place it on it to show you what it does. So this is bold. You see the T is thicker than all these ones, right? So if I click on this one, it changes it to bold. It changes it to bold. If I want it to be italicized, I click on this one. You see, it bent it. So this is almost the same function as Microsoft Word. In fact, this one has, I have typed in lower cases and I want to change everything to uppercase. This T, this double T, all caps, I click on it, it changed. If I want to take it back, I have to just undo. So I click on this one too, it's the same. And this one actually still does another function if you have two texts together, so you can use this one. Then this one is it superscript and lower script, if I'm correct. This one, you see, reduced the size of your text. This one took it down. So same with Microsoft Word. And if you want to underline your text, this T that has, oh, okay, yeah, superscript and subscript. Okay. If I want to underline the text, I'll just click on this one. The text is underlined. If I want to undo it, I have to just untick it. If I want to strike through, I click. All right. So that's that on texting. And okay, this one is the space between the text. Let me undo this one. So let me take this thing to 0. All right. So this one, basically, you can see the arrow is going either left or right. So this one is the space between the text. That means the space between the T and E, the space between the E and X, the space between X and T. If I increase it, you see the space is becoming wider. You use this one for that. But if you have more than one text, that means you have one line of text here, another line of text here. Let me quickly illustrate that. Okay, so I have this line of text here. Sorry. I have this line of text, one that says lorem ipsum. Yeah. And I feel like, okay, the lines are too much and I want to, this is spacing, double line spacing 1.5, 2.0. This is spacing in Photoshop. So this is where you do it. This one that has this A on A and has the arrow going up and down. So by default, it is on auto, but you have to just click down on it and change it. So now I have put my own in 12. The spacing does not make sense. So I have to increase it to 16. All right. 16, I think 16 is fine. All right. So yeah, that's that about that one. And this one increases the height of the text. This one increases, you can see the T is going up and down the text. So this one increases the height of the text. See what it does. It's increasing the height of the text. So I don't really know what situation that would one want to use this, because I'm pretty sure I have not used this. I have not used this. All right, so this next one. So this next one now. Sorry. This one is it lifts. You know, when you write a text, let me type this one. Okay, let me leave Lauren. So in text, there's this thing called baseline. Baseline basically is the bottom of the text, like the bottom of this text. Let me draw this line so we'll see. All right. Okay, so let me do it like so. You see where this cyan line is on. this sort of like line, this like greenish line is at the bottom of this text, right? So that is the baseline of the text. That is the bottom of the text. The P is just the way it is written, but the bottom of the text is mainly the major ones. P, F, and the likes of it. Their baseline are the circular part of them, not this bottom part. So this two, what this two does is that when you increase this two, it changes the baseline of the text. So it pumps it up. I mean, it pushes the baseline up. So in any situation where where you have need to push the baseline of your text up, this is your tool. If you go back to 0, it goes to the original side. If you go back to -0, it pushes it down. So I think with that, we've come to round break. So while we come back, what was I saying now? Please also try and remind me. I said I would go over something.
Okay, Mr. Dan, can you add the shadow effect?
Oh yes, we can add shadow effects. We can after the break. So maybe you just list these things down. After break, you remind me. Then we'll start with
Okay,
those. Yes,
all right.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So let's quickly go on break. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I have to just go
Sir,
over.
the shadow stuff, sir.
Yes. That is what we were even doing. So I'll start it over again. All right. So this is what we want to do next. We want to add shadow to this text. We have this text on our um artboard on our canvas. So now I want to add text to it. So we say we have one particular place that we usually go to add text, another effect to text, to element or text in general, element and text. So I said the first step is you are clicked on your text, on the layer of your text. So you just come down to the bottom of your layers panel. You see this FX here, it has arrow going down. So you click on the FX itself. You see different options, right? The one you are concerned with this instance is your drop shadow. So we click on drop shadow. So when you click on drop shadow, you see this layer
I didn't
style.
say
You
any
see
job shadow. I be stuff. I'm not using my system because it's dead now. So I'm just following you.
you're not using your system.
It's dead. My system is dead. So I'm
Okay,
just
but
looking at the screen.
are you
But I'm
seeing the
saying the
screen?
screen. Yeah, I'm saying, but I didn't say any drop shadow stuff.
Can you see the text effect? Can you see the text selected?
Yes.
So follow this cursor that is going down like this now. Did you see add a layer style?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll click on that thing now. You see this pop up?
No pop-up is showing.
Oh,
But you can
okay. Somebody,
continue.
yeah?
No pop-up is showing. No.
Okay, let me ask that person if they see pop up. Is it the same issue with everyone else?
Yeah, it will still show. It takes a while to show for those of us that were
Network.
online. But with time, it shows. Like before you went back now, it showed. But it does not show immediately when you click. It does not pop up quickly for us that were online. It takes a while.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I believe the person that did not see it was I think it was the Joker's company. Joker company.
Sir?
Can you see it now?
No, but you can continue, sir. Just tell
Wait,
me what
what?
I'll click on after clicking on the stuff.
Oh, why are you not seeing it?
I don't know.
Okay. So we have the layer, you know about layers. We have the text layer selected.
Yeah.
Then we just go down to the bottom of the text layer. That means, remember those icons at the bottom of the text layer where you have your create new layer style and the rest. This is the second one from the left. If you count from the left, 1, 2, the one that has FX on it. We'll just click on it, and when you click on it, something will come up. You have blending option, then you have some other text under it. So the one we'll click on is drop shadow. Okay, so let me take it back again this one time. We are selected on the text layer. We go down to FX, which is on the layers panel. So we just go down to FX. When you click on FX, you see some other things like blending option, bevel and emboss, and the rest. So we just click on drop shadow. So when you click on drop shadow, you have this panel showing up, this huge panel. You have it showing up, right? So what we want to do is immediately you even click on drop shadow, it will select it. You see it down here. You have this drop shadow. You have this, the box is ticked, right? So you want to just adjust it like this. So you'll be able to see your, so we'll be able to see our effect. So basically now we have the text, it has a drop shadow, but the drop shadow is way off, right? So the drop shadow is way off. You can see it plenty. It does not even really make sense at the moment. So in this drop shadow now, this is the drop shadow is selected. You see these other ones are there, but none of the boxes are ticked. That means none of the boxes, you are not selecting any of these ones. We are currently working on drop shadow. That is why this is ticked. So now that we have the drop shadow selected, and we have on the background, we have the drop shadow splashing everywhere, not so good. So you just come to the right hand side of your panel, of the layer style panel, that you have drop shadow, structure, blend mode, opacity, angle, where you see all these things here. So this is where you will be able to edit how much of drop shadow you want, how less of it, how intense you want it to be, if you want it to be faint, if you want it to be so much, you get. So the first thing is the blend mode for drop shadow, just leave it as multiply. We would cover on how much you want it. The opacity is the same thing as transparency. So currently now the opacity is at 100. If you take it down, you see reducing. See reducing, right? So that is the opacity. In fact, drop shadow even has color itself, and mainly because of shadows are much darker. So it is darker colors that will work for drop shadow. If you click inside to the shadow, because shadows are not white, shadows are dark. So basically, it has to be dark. So you can use anything, you can use black, and you can use a darker shade of any color. Let's say, for instance, now our drop shadow has to be a darker blue. If you click on this blue, you actually have the drop shadow in blue, right? But you just have to just increase it or take it down. Just make sure any color that you're using for your shadow is not white. Any color you're using for your shadow is not white. You will see that if you use a whiter color for it, you may not see it, or even a lighter color. You might see it faintly. So just try as much as possible to use a darker color for your drop shadow. So if you've selected OK and leave it at multiply, if you want it to be so much, you leave the opacity at 100. All right. So the next one is the distance. So the distance basically is the distance of this shadow from this text. That is the distance. That is what the distance of this shadow from this text. So let's take the distance down to 0. Let me take the size down to 0. All right. So
Mr. Dan, my shadow is not reflecting. Do I have to highlight the text?
no, you not highlight the text. Are you here on layer style? Are you on
Yes,
this layer style?
yes,
Is
I
your
am.
shadow is your shadow ticked?
Yes, I've ticked the drop shadow.
Okay. So leave it on this. Then come to the right side of the panel. Is your blend mode multiply? Does this blend mode read multiply on your own?
Is multiplied.
Okay, very good. So now look at the next box after that multiply. Is it black?
Yes,
Okay, very good. So now next, your opacity, is your opacity at 100?
yes, is at 100.
Okay. So what do you have for this angle?
90.
90. Okay, could work. If it is 90, it has to just do with the lighting. Does not really matter. So now let's check your distance. What is your distance? What is the number there?
4.
4. All right, let's say we take it to 4. So if your distance is at 4, the shadow is actually behind it, but you cannot really see it very well because it is not pushed out. So this is where you would increase. Let's try increasing your distance and see the shadow come out. Have you increased your distance? So try
Okay.
increasing.
But
Okay, you
I
see.
I noticed something, Mr. Dan. When
Okay.
I increase the distance, the text multiply into 2. One
Yes,
has
that is the
shadow.
shadow. That is the shadow. Not that is not even the text. That is the shadow itself. So that is what the distance does. The distance slider here. You use it to push the distance away from the text. You know, originally when your distance was at 4, the shadow
Yes.
was actually behind the text, but you could not see it because the distance is not much. But if you increase the distance, just like you just did now, you see, if your distance is something around this thing, this is actually a shadow, but it is not a realistic shadow because your shadow cannot go this much. Remember, it's a shadow, and shadows are not really sharp. When you look at your shadows, you actually see the edges are sort of like blended, blur, or kind of. So in that case, you have to just reduce the distance. All right. So, and we just said your shadows are not sharp. So that is where you use spread and size to make sure your shadows are a little bit of realistic. I think there's this thing in art that is called in literature that is called verisimilitude. Or what it means basically is you try as much as possible to make your work of art or your literature close to reality, right? You might have something that is not really reality in itself, but you try as much as possible. That is why we have fictional plays. That means stories that are not true, but the way they are being constructed, the way they are done, some people might not even know that the story is a fiction because they have done it close to reality. So that is what the term is. So you can transfer that knowledge you have, bring it to your design too. You try as much as possible to make. So basically, now your text now, you know that in real life, your shadow is not sharp. Your shadow cannot be sharp. It has to be. You see some blur around the edge, not like very, very sharp and distinct. So you bring that same knowledge to design too. So and to do that, you use spread and size rather. So if I increase my spread, it does not really do anything. Well, let me increase my size now. Let me even take the spread down. All right. So the thing that actually gives you the blurry effect for the shadow is mainly the size. But the larger your size, let me increase the size you see. If your size becomes bigger, that means the size of a shadow become bigger. That means your text will just be disappearing now. It will be going faint and more blurry. So the larger your size, the more blur it is. The smaller your size, the sharper it is. So I'm taking the size down. You can see that it is still see the size at 0, but see the size at 38. So let me try increase the spread now. I am increasing the spread. I mean, in fact, this is even this is even a text effect. Like you can use shadow to get some extra text effect. Let me take the shadow down, the
It
spread
looks
rather,
more like 3D.
like 3D, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
looks more like 3D. Yeah. So this is you just try and play with this settings. Play with this settings, see what it gives you. And if at the end of the day you have finished using and you don't want it, you just say like, no, now this is not what I want. You see this reset to default button you have here. If you click on it, it will take all of these settings back to the original setting. So remember, we have 38, 39 here, 33 here, 100 here, and 38 here. So let me click on default here now. So you see the default actually resets everything. In fact, even took the opacity of the shadow down. But the thing that remains is my blend mode, multiply, and the color here, right? So that is what the default does. And the angle is even at 90 by default. So the first thing I want to do to be able to see my shadow is increase the distance, right? So you can see that when we increase the distance, the shadow has started coming out from the text, and it is faint. It is not so black as the initial one. So that is because the opacity is down at 35. Let's try increase the opacity to 100 and you see what it does. You see it has become darker, right? So there's this thing about shadow, this rule about shadow down. If you look carefully at images or anything, if your shadow is close, I mean, if your shadow is closer to the element you are putting shadow on, if your shadow is closer to the element, that means the element is close to the ground, or that means the element is not far from the surface where it is. For instance, if you place your cup down and you have lighting hitting it on the left, you see the shadow go from beneath it to spread to some extent. It is close to it. But if you have an element that is suspended in the air, if you have an element that is suspended in the air, that means the element is maybe levitating or what, the shadow beneath it will not be so sharp. In fact, it will be faint. Let me use that sneakers we had, for instance. So you see what I'm trying to say? I think we have this. Okay. Let me just import it. No, this one. Right. Okay, so I was talking about the rule of shadow now. So as you can see in this picture now, with this shadow, you'll be okay. I mean, look at the two shadows themselves, right? You have the shoe, the pairs, you have them in the air, levitating, right? They are not touching the ground. And obviously, because there's lighting in the environment, it ought to have shadow. So now, and I said, the closer your element is to the ground, the darker your shadow is. So you see, amongst these two pairs, you have this one on the right is closer to the ground. Meanwhile, this one on the left is a little bit higher up than this one, right? So this one here, the one closer to the ground, has a darker shadow. If you have this image, kindly import it so you would see what I'm saying. So this one closer to the ground has a darker shadow. Meanwhile, this one a little bit up has a faint shadow. So that is just the rule. You just try as much as possible. If your element is closer to the ground or is closer to the surface of where it is, then the shadow will be heavy. It will be thick and heavy. But if your element is higher up, then the shadow would be lighter. So let's do an example of this one where we remove the okay. So this one now we actually remove the background for this one, right? So let me try and create a shadow for this image. So to create a shadow for this image, we will not use that this drop shadow effect, because if we use this drop shadow effect, the shadow actually come out from the side of it. Let me show you. So I have clicked on this one. I'm going to effects drop shadow. Okay. So this is what drop shadow will give me for this one. You see how it is placing the shadow. See the distance now. Use the distance to push this thing. And in fact, if you're using, I think the recent Photoshop, you can even come here manually and change the distance yourself. You just drag the shadow and push it towards where you want it. If I want it up here, I push it there. If I want it down here, I'll come and drag it there. So this shadow now basically is it sort of looks like the light is coming from above and is hitting the top of this shoe. That is why the shadow is beneath it, right? But we don't want the shadow. We want it something else. So imagine if I reduce the size of the shadow, you see that shadow becomes so black. I mean, it does not even really make sense. It does not even look like shadow anymore. Okay, so now to create a shadow manually, what you do is you create a new layer. When you create a new layer, before you select brush, you change this color that you have to. You need black. Shadows are black. You change it to black, right? You now choose B. So now remember what we said about shadow having faint or blurry edge. And we know in brush, we have different types of brush, and we have the hard round brush that makes the edges of your design or brush very thick. And you have the soft round brush. So what you do is select the soft round brush, increase the size of it. So I've selected soft round brush, I have increased the size of it. I created a new layer beneath my shoe, and my opacity is 100. I just dab. I just click there once, right? This thing does not look like shadow. It also looks like a dot that is there. So I'll just do Control T on this shadow that I've created. When I do Control T on it, I'll have to distort this thing to create a shadow effect. So I have to just like hold down Shift. You hold down Shift on the side of it to flatten it. If I hold down Shift, it is flat. Then I want to increase it. I hold down Shift and do like this. Increase it to the side. Now, I just put it here like this. Let me show you. So this one basically now looks like, okay, let me now show you the difference between this one and that one. We have this one. We have this shoe first. We have this first one. This is original this thing. And you can see that because the shadow is far from the shoe, it is showing you that this shoe is up in the air. And because the shadow is even fainter, it's showing you that the shoe is up in the air. And besides, they're not even close together. So it's showing you that, okay, it is up in the air. Now look at this shadow that is close to it. Now this one now looks like the shoe is actually touching the ground. Is that, yeah, okay. Okay, so is that okay, or do we have to take that over again?
It's okay for me, sir.
All right. So any question before we proceed? Okay, so the closer your shadow is to your object,
Sorry, can you go over it?
can I?
Go over it again, sir, please.
Okay. So we're talking about creating shadow now to create shadow to give the sense of how shadow function. And we said with this original image, we can obviously see that they have shadows here, right? We can see that they have shadows here, but the first thing we notice about this image is that this image is actually not touching the ground. And how can we tell? Is because of the shadows that are here. That is how we can tell that this image or the pair of the shoes are not touching the ground, because the shadow and the shoe are not close together. And for you to actually even to be able to achieve this effect, you have to make sure if your image is not touching the ground, then the shadow will not be thick. It will be light. It will be faint. If maybe after this class you want to try and examine, you can just look for where light is mainly coming from. And you know that, okay, if you place this image, I mean, it is even straight and direct that when when we are walking basically and light is hitting us, the shadow actually comes from underneath us, right? That is because our legs are touching the ground. So the shadow will come directly from our legs, from anywhere, directly from our leg. That is because our leg is touching the ground. We are the object or the subject, we are touching the ground. But if you hold something like a ball, any objects in the air, if you hold any object in the air and light hits it, the shadow, you will see the shadow on the ground, but the shadow will not come directly from underneath it. So maybe if you just have the chance to do it, you can just use that one and experiment. So, and we said in design, we want to try as much as possible to make our design close to reality, because if your design or even your story is close to reality, people hardly notice it as being fiction. I say everybody knows that in Photoshop there are people that do picture manipulation. What even AI is doing right now is picture manipulation. It collects, for instance, the photo lab that people use mostly is that it collect actually a real person's body. Then it will help you adjust your head on that person's body, and to try as much as possible to make sure that the color of your face matches the color of not necessarily the color of the clothes. The color of your face matches the general color of the environment where the picture was taken, right? That one is maybe if the picture is light, the picture has very good light, then the AI would make sure that the light actually affects your face too, so everything matches. So it's trying as much as possible to replicate reality, and you have to do so in your designs too, if you're working with subjects like that. So we said now that this shadow is very faint. I mean, this shoe is closer to the ground than this one. Now, if you now look at the shadows now, because this one is further up, the shadow is fainter. Because this one is closer to the ground, the shadow is a little bit darker than this one. In relative to this one, is darker. So now we manually created a shadow now to give the effect that this shoe now is touching the ground. So, oh, this is this one now. This is the shadow we created. You can see that with this shadow now, it looks directly like this shoe is touching the ground. And this one is actually in the air. This one is, you know that it is in the air, but there's really no indication to say it is in the air. In fact, now we can copy the shadow that we did. Let's place it here and see if it will give us the notion or the idea that this one is also on the ground. So let me click on the shadow, Control J, and drag it to this place. Let's see. Okay. So now it gives the idea that these two shoes are actually touching the ground, but they are placed at different angles. In fact, it even shows that this one looks to be in front and this one looks to be at the back. So imagine we have changed the idea of a simple image by using shadow, different shadow. Now let's imagine we drag these two shadows down. You see, it has changed the position of the image. It is showing that the images are actually floating, but the shadow is very, very sharp. So in this case, now we just have to reduce the opacity of this shadow, right? So I hope that is clear. Okay, so I hope that is clear. All right. So we'll move on to the next one about creating. Okay, I think we're creating shadow for this text. Okay, yes. So now to create shadow for this text now, you can actually use that shadow method we did. That means if you want it to look like your text is levitating. But on a regular or normally, we don't really create shadow like that. As a designer, it actually depends on you. What you basically just need to know is the different tools to do different things. Then it is your task or your result that actually determine how you use a text to achieve that, how you use an element or two to achieve that. So let's say for this text now, we want it to be levitating. All we just do is create new layer. The layer can be above or beneath it, so long as it's not covering it. We look for brush, we tap once. When you tap once, see soft round brush, see the edge, blurry, then the center, a little bit darker. So this one will not function as shadow. What we just do is we Control T this tiny dot we've created. So when you are scaling any element up and down and you hold down shift, it will distort it, right? Then again, distortion is not a bad thing in itself because you can use the distortion to achieve some You can use the distortion to achieve some results in Photoshop. So for instance, now we want to make this one look more like a shadow and we want to distort it. We'll hold down Shift, we'll push this one down, we drag this one. You see that it has distorted what we had. Oh, sorry. So just come and sit. Now it looks like this text is levitating or is floating in the air. If we move it closer to it, then the text is directly on the ground. So imagine now, you see the issue here is that because we place the text above the shadow above the text now, it is sort of interfering. Meanwhile, the shadow ought to be behind it. We'll just come and drag the layer, drag it under. See? This is what we have. All right. So that is one way of creating text. And the other way we said of creating shadow, shadow is we come to the text, right? Come to the text, we click on FX. When you click on FX, you see the pop-up that has drop shadow. You can go through here, or you come to the text layer here that we have. Not this place, but you make sure it's the text layer. You just maybe come to the side of it here. You right click. What you are looking for is blending options. Let me go back to that FX so you see that blending options from there. The first option we had was on the text layer. We come to FX. So you see all this drop down. So you see that all these drops are actually closer together and blending option is on top and it has a line in between to divide them. So this one is telling you that this one is different from this group and all of this group are actually contained inside the blending option. So basically what we're looking for is the blending option. I don't know why they call it the blending option in Photoshop because I don't really know. All right, so what we're looking for is a blending option. So we can get the blending option from here. Or you come here, you right click and you see blending option on top here. Then the third way of doing it is while still on the layer, you just double click. So double clicking will just automatically open the blending. I mean, you'll see immediately it opens the blending options for you. It is now titled layer style. My God, Photoshop, what did you do? It will title it layer style, but you see blending options, right? So 3 methods now. Remember, what we're trying to do is add some effects to our text, maybe drop shadow, gradient, and whatnot.
Please, the double clicking didn't work for me. I tried doing it on that test layer and it didn't work for me.
Okay. Sometimes when you double click, if you double click on the text itself like this, like you are pointed to the text and you double click, it will assume that you want to rename the layer. Let me double click on here and you see. You see that actually I highlighted the layer, right? Let me say we want to rename it to layer. That is what it will do. But when you want to get the blending option, you do not double click here or here. You come to the edge of that layer here. Let's say this last end of the layer here. If you have a longer text like this one, if you come to the edge of it, you might see select. You just make sure that you are not clicking on the text. Just come double click. It gives you your blending option. So try it again and I hope it works now.
I'm okay now, it worked.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so that is that on the double clicking. So now we double click here and we go to our blending option. So now that we're at the blending option, we have talked about drop shadow. So that we talked about drop shadow. Then for okay, seeing yeah. Okay, let me mute you from here. All right. Okay. So we talked about adding drop shadow. Now let's talk about there is outer glow, there is pattern overlay, there's gradient, color overlay, satin. So the first one we talked about is we talked about drop shadow. Now let's talk about outer glow. Outer glow, just like the name implies, it will give your text a glow that is outside it. That means outside of the text. If we do outer glow to this one, just like glows are not dark. Just shadows are dark, but glows are not dark. Glows are more lighter. So you have to just take note of that one. So now if you give outer glow to this text, you see the color of the glow on the right hand side of the panel. The blend mode is screen. Leave it as screen. The opacity can be increased. Now you cannot see the glow here because the color of the glow we give this text is white and the background is white. So in any case, you have to change. If you insist on using your white background, you have to change this glow to another color entirely. So let's say we're choosing this pink. Opacity is still at 63, and imagine we cannot even see it, right? We even increase the size, we cannot see. So if you are using outer glow, if you are using outer glow and your background is light, you may not see it. But anything you're even doing on the outer glow, you'll be seeing the preview on here. The only reason why you could not see in the first place was we tried to just hide that pattern. The main part we're more concerned is these two sides. But if you want to see your preview, you see this is your outer glow. Now we cannot see because the background is light and the outer glow is light. So let's just click OK and change the color of the background. Let's change it to black. Very good. Okay, so let's go back to our outer glow. Okay, so now we are at outer glow, and you can see that we went out of the outer glow and came back, and you see that this one is ticked. If we untick this one to remove it, we take it back, it will take it there. And you have to make sure that it is the layer that is selected, just like the same way you have your layers panel and everything selected, right? So outer glow, now we want to change the color of the outer glow, the size. If we reduce the size, it makes a little bit more sense. And let's say we reduce the opacity, it goes down, spread a little. Outer glow, let's use more of this yellow. Okay. Let's increase our opacity. Want to increase the size of the glow. All right. So that is how outer glow works. It gives your text a glow that is outside it. Then the next one is, so if you don't want the outer glow again, you can just untick it. So the next one is pattern overlay. You have to just click on the pattern overlay. So pattern overlay actually works like clipping mask. Remember that for the clipping marks, we place a new element inside of the text. So it's the same thing as pattern overlay. What pattern overlay would do is the same thing as clipping mark. So, but then pattern overlay is actually limited because it does not really have much patterns inside, but you can get different patterns online. So when you click on, when you click on pattern overlay, the contrast between this one and the background is not so good because just as you know, the background is dark. So you click on pattern overlay. You want to fill this text with a pattern, right? So on this place now, you see pattern, you see drop down. If you click on drop down, you have different patterns that Photoshop has given. You have trees. So this is the default one we have. If we click on this one, it will change. Click on this one, right? See the pattern. This is rust. So this is the same thing as clipping mask, all right? So that means why we use clipping mask is because what we want to clip inside the text may not be available in Photoshop's preset. All right, so we click this one. That is a new pattern. So let's try grass. Oh, so this is what it gives. Let's try water. Okay, so okay, all right. So that is that about pattern overlay. The settings, leave it at the blend mode, normal, opacity. Opacity depends on how much of the pattern you want to be seen. So let's say we want less of the pattern to be seen. So if you take the opacity down, you can actually still see the pattern, but you see the original text color, which is blue. But if you take the pattern up, you see the entirety of the text is just this thing. So you can still do this thing with clipping mask. When you clip the image inside your text, you can reduce the opacity of the text or the transparency of the text. It gives you the same effect. All right. So the next one now is gradient overlay. You click on gradient overlay. So when you click on gradient overlay, you have this gradient. Remember that gradient we talked about, that it will have this default gradient. Okay, and your opacity is always, it just depends on Photoshop or the last file you worked on. So for our opacity now, we have this opacity that is not so great. I mean, you cannot even see it here. Then for gradient rather, then the opacity is down. So first thing I'm doing is increasing it. Then I'm changing my opacity to one that is much different. All right. So I changed my opacity. It did not really reflect. That is because the blend mode is at multiply. So I'll just change the blend mode to normal. So for these other ones, leave the blend mode as they are. But for opacity, you have to change the blend mode to normal. So now we've changed the blend mode to normal. We have this color, but then the color is not still coming out. The opacity is down. Take it up. Right. So you see our text now has two colors on it. Our text has two colors on it. You have the darker, the lighter one. But then the issue now is that there's not really issue. The thing is that the style of this gradient is radial. Remember radial gradient style is radial. You can see that the lighter part of the gradient is in the middle, then the darker part is outside. So you just click on the style, right? You change it to linear. So when you change it to linear, you see it come from one angle to the next. So now we have the color coming from left to the right. And in any case, you want the gradient to be dark on this place and lighter on this place. See reverse here. Remember that reverse we used from that other gradient. You click on it and it will reverse the gradient. It will reverse the arrangement of the gradient. So that's that on the gradient. And yeah, that's that on the gradient. Okay, let's talk about the scale too. So you can see that this gradient is everything is blended. There is no sharp edge, everything is smooth. So the scale in gradient, when you take it down, let's take the scale down. You take the scale down, then the angle, let me take the angle to, oh, sorry. Let me go back, sorry. All right, so the angle is, I'm trying to show 0. Okay, right. So we have the angle at 0. That means it is going this way. If you have it at 90, it will go in 90 degrees. That is about the angle. So now for the scale, the gradient is not so great because, I mean, you can look on the T, on the capital T. You see it has the gradient, but it is sharp. It is not really looking like a gradient. It's looking at something else. So if you want to blend it, I mean, you want everything to be blended together in a smooth way, you have to increase the scale. So now try looking at the text while increasing the scale. You see how it begins to blend. You do not see sharp edges anymore. I mean, you can leave your scale at this number or you can take it to the maximum if you wish. So it's anything that is what works for you that you do. All right. So, and if you inverse it, it takes the upper gradient, takes it down and do that one. So that's that on the gradient. So the next one now we go to color overlay. So for the color overlay too works like gradient, but you use it to change the color of the text. Honestly, I don't know why. Okay, there are uses for it, but I really don't know why you have the color overlay here when you can change the color of the text from outside before you get here. So what color overlay does is it helps you change the color of the text. Meanwhile, you can actually do it outside on this T or your character panel. But in any case, you want to change it from here. You just click on color overlay. You make sure it is selected. Now the thing has gone to black because the default color on the color overlay is black. So if I want to change it now, remember we had blue on it. We just want to change. So I want to change it. I'll just click on here and change it to something like this. That is what the color overlay does. It's almost the same thing as changing the color of this thing. So, but then the only difference with color overlay and changing from the T or characters panel is that you can actually reduce the opacity of the color. So at this level now, the color overlay is sharp. So if you take the opacity down, you see the color, but you don't see much of it. So your tax actually determine if you'd use color overlay or not. All right, so depends, different things to do. So the next one I'll talk about satin. Satin is a text effect. Is an effect that it gives your text or your elements. I don't really use the satin because it kind of like covers the text. Honestly, it covers the text. Let me see normal. Let me see lighting. Satin is just an effect that you give your text to add to it. Let me see this yellow one, maybe to come out well. See, it's not really coming out well. Take it down. Darken. Normal. Okay. So for the satin is just the way I don't really know the function of this satin because it just gives your text this effect. Because originally when you look, let's take this thing off. We have our text is plain, right? There's really nothing on the text. It's just plain as it is and nothing too much. But the moment we click on satin, you begin to see like a gradient too. It works like a gradient, but it is not a gradient. So that is why I don't really bother about it because it wants to work like a gradient. Meanwhile, it is not a gradient. If I change the color of the satin to this one, you see on the satin, it is looking like this type of gradient. I think the reflected gradient. Yes, it's looking like that reflected gradient. Remember that style of gradient? It is looking like it. So its function is not really something that you would need mostly, but in any case, you need it. Explore the satin panel and work with it. So that's how the satin, we toggle it off. Now the next one, I want to talk about inner glow. So outer glow. Let me do the outer glow. Outer glow adds the glow outside your text. Inner glow adds your glow inside your text. So let me change the color to this. Let me change the color to a more bright yellow. All right. So inner glow actually adds. Oh my god. Inner glow adds your glow inside your text. So if you click on inner glow, you see the glow faintly inside. So let's increase the opacity. So now I've increased the opacity. The glow is actually inside. So you come down to the right hand side of your panel where you have choke, size. So if you increase the size of the inner glow, it becomes bigger. You see the glow inside. If you click choke, it will cover everything. It's just like the name sounds, choke. If you want to choke your text or your elements with the glue, it will choke it. But if you want it to remain at the edge, just faintly at the edge, you use this slider to do that. Then you have center, edge. If you use center, that means your glue will start from the middle. Your glue will mainly be in the middle, in fact. And if the slide you are increasing or reducing will be taking down this thing. So that is why I mainly use edge because I want my glue to come from the edge. So I just use edge and add glue to it. Okay, so those are the main listings you need on. Like then the next one now is the inner shadow. So the inner shadow now is also the same thing as the drop shadow. The drop shadow drops it has the shadow behind the text. Inner shadow has the shadow inside the text. So we click on inner shadow, we have this. Okay, for this sake, let me increase this one. So I want to work on inner shadow. So I click on inner shadow. The opacity is down, that is why you cannot see anything. So if I increase the opacity, you begin to see the text have some inner shadows. So the distance. Now if you increase the distance now, it will look like it will give it this cool effect that looks like it is coming out of this background. Let me zoom it. So we are giving it inner shadow, right? This is the text we have. But because of the inner shadow, it is not looking like this text actually coming out of this background. It is embossed like this white was placed on the background. That is what the inner shadow is. You use it for different effects you want. Then the next one now we have stroke. So when you click on stroke, you have the size of the stroke, the color of the stroke. So we cannot see the color of the stroke now because it is white and our background is white. So when you click on here, change the color of the stroke to your liking. We have black stroke, but the stroke is so big because the size here is 42. So let's try and reduce the size to something like 10. All right. So, okay, no, we use that something like 8. Now, there are different positions you can place your stroke. This one, by default, our stroke is on the outside of the text. We can choose to place our stroke inside or center. So, inside now, it changes the stroke's position. Center changes the stroke position, and outside. So the center sort of works the same way as the center and inside and outside kind of look alike. And you can even reduce the opacity of your stroke. You have added a black stroke to it, but you can reduce the opacity of it. So what changes is the opacity of your stroke, not your text. All right. So that's that for stroke. So now the next one is the bevel and emboss. So use the bevel and emboss to create like a 3D like effect. So you click on bevel and emboss. So when you click on bevel and emboss, please remember that this is we're just going over this one. We are not expected to be perfect at it this first time. It actually takes practice to be able to get it. So this is just an overview of what each panel does, each element and each tool does. All right. So I said bevel and emboss is so you'd like to use to create a 3D effect. So when you click on bevel and emboss, originally you would have this. If you've not used it before, this is what you have. You have inner bevel, smooth, depth, direction up, down, size, soften, and the rest, and all these other things you have. So the first thing you want to do is emboss. You click on emboss or you leave it at inner emboss. If you leave it at inner emboss, just like the way we met it, and you increase the depth, look at your text. It begins to have, oh, sorry. The text begins to have 3D like effect. We increase the depth first. We left it at inner bevel. We increase the depth. Then our direction is up, not down. So this is the size. This is where the size was. Now imagine us increasing the size. You see that it is looking like 3D, like it is chiseled or in a way like it is sculpted. Okay. Yes, you think it is sculpted. This is the effect you use for it. So if you now feel at the point that this is too hard, the edges are too hard, you can use this soften to just reduce it. Use this soften to reduce it. It will still have this sculpted feel, but it will be reduced, right? So if your soften is at 0, it will be very, very sharp. But if you take it down, it will reduce the hardness of it. So the direction is at up here at the moment. If you tick down, it will change. Let me go back. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You use it to change the direction of the effect you have given it. So this other one, make sure you use global light. There's this option here that is use global light. Make sure it is ticked. What this one does is that if you look inside the circle, you see this tiny circle, then you see this dot here. This is like giving you an idea where the lighting is coming from on this effect you're creating. So basically now it is telling us that the 90 is coming from, the angle is coming, the light is coming from 90 degrees. That means it's coming from up here. That is why these other places are darker. Then anything that is not hit by the lighting is dark. All right. So if you are not okay with your lighting, let's say you want your lighting to come from 0, your light will actually come from the left. Or if you don't really know, you don't even have to know about the angles. You can just come and change the lighting effect manually here. All right, you can come and change your angle manually here without having to know about. You just know, okay, I want my lighting to come here. I want this part to be dark. So this is how it works. But you make sure your use global light is checked. So the glass contours now are just different effects to your text. But I usually leave it as this first one because it serves all right. All right. So this contour and texture also work the same way with it. So if you have done any effect and you click on OK, when you go back to your home page that has a layer, you see beneath your layer text now, this texture that we have, this text that we have, beneath it, we have effect, right? And everything you create in that layer style will be under it and it will have visibility. So we can only see bevel and emboss because it is only bevel and emboss that's on. If we add our text, our gradient layer, you see it come on. It will have the gradient effect. It will also have the bevel and emboss. If we click on outer glue, or we cannot see outer glue because, okay, yes. Now we've changed the background to be able to see the outer glue. You can see all of this effect that we added to it. They are all visible here. But if you don't want them, you can just toggle. If you don't want maybe one or two from them, you toggle their visibility off, right? And if you don't want every of them, you just come to the effect, you toggle it off. Then to go back to your original layer, which we had, the blue one. So if any case you have all of this, you want everything back, you come to the side again, you toggle it on, everything. And you want to change the text. Remember how you change text? You double click here, you change it to new, change it to new, right? It still retains this effect you had given it because everything is there. And if you give effect to a layer or any element, you see effects by the side and you see this drop down arrow. So the arrow is pointing up because you have expanded everything under it. If the arrow drops down, I mean you collapsed everything. Is that okay? Is there any question?
For now, no question. Just to take time and practice and one after the other, go over the test and that's for me. Or that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Winnie. Any other person else has maybe any question or anything else?
Someone is asking the function of satin.
Yes, I can see the question. I see the question. I will address it now. Okay, so the function of the satin does not really function much like that. It is just to add effect to it. So let's go back to our Photoshop and look at what satin does. Let's toggle this one off. So now I want to work with satin. When you click on satin to add effect to it, when you click on satin, let me take the opacity up. The satin sort of works like the what do you call this thing now? The satin works like the gradient map, but it works like the is it reflected? I think yes, satin works like reflected gradient map. It does not really do much. If I toggle this one off, This is the original layer we have. If I put satin to it, you see what it gives it. Just little effect. It may be useful in some cases, all right? It may be useful in some cases, but in other cases where you don't need it, you don't really have to put it. It is not every effect you have to be putting on your design, honestly. But I mean, in cases whereby it is necessary, you just have to put it. All right. So that is the effect of satin. It's not really satin at what you do with it. It's just there. Let me see. If I reduce the distance, see what it does. So what you just have to do is you just need more practice. Try and create a text. Try and add effect to it. If it is add drop shadow to it. If it is inner glue, add it to it and the likes of it. All right. So I hope that answers your question.
For me to always change the color of my background, but sometimes when I try, I double click it to be showing me color overlay. What's the best way to do that, Mr. Dan?
Okay, you want to change the color of your background?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
what you do is when you want to change the color of your background, let me delete this one so we'll see. So we have a white background, but we want to change it. We want something different from this white background. What you do is come to this fourth one under your layers panel. This one that is saying create new fill or adjustment layer. That one. You click on it. Then you come to solid color. So when you click on solid color, it will actually select the color that is here automatically. But if this is not the color you want, then you change it. And if you want to
Mr.
sample
Dan,
from here, you sample.
your screen is very big. I don't know. Is it from your end?
Okay, my screen is big. Is it
Yes.
small now?
No.
It's normal from my end.
Normal.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so let me just go over it again. If you want to add new background to your image, you just come to this fourth one, create new fill or adjustment layer. Remember, you count from the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one on the layers panel, you click it. So when you click it, you have this pop-up. You have the first one is solid color gradient pattern. Remember we actually talked about gradient solid color. So you just use solid color. And originally what you have is the black one because it is black that is on my foreground. But this is not the color I want. So I'll just change it to something I want. Change it to something I want. Let me see. Okay. So I change it to this red. This is what I want. So you will see it here. So this is it. Don't worry about this other one that is on the side. You see if I toggle it off and on, you see. See. So
All right,
I
thank
hope that
you.
answers.
Yeah, I've done that. It worked. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So it will work like that. So I think is Mr. Solomon here. Let me message Mr. Solomon. Give me some seconds, please. Okay, everyone. So I think we have to end the class now because some reasons. So we just have to end the class now and would meet in class tomorrow. And please note that we have not finished this class. That means we still have extra time. So one way or another, I'll find way to make up for the remainder of this time another day. All right. So, but I'll make sure it is a physical class. All right. So, in the days where I have to close by 2, I won't be closing by 2. So, I'll look for this to make up for this time. All right. Um, so yes, we have come to the end of the class and we'll meet tomorrow. All right. So, I'm not sure it is tomorrow because I think there's a program by 2. I'm not sure. So, but in any day where we don't have any extra program if we don't have an extra program, we'll fix this time that we missed. We'll fix it into it. All right. So on that note, have a good day and a good night rest, and we'll meet tomorrow again. All
All
right.
right, sir.
Apologies for this impromptu ending of the class. All right. So yes, everyone take care. Bye.
Sir, please, can we get the recording early? Maybe today.
Okay, I'll ask Mr. Michael or Mr. Solomon for it. So, yes, you may. Let me just ask them and confirm first.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, ma. All right, so everyone, have a good night rest and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Okay.